Welcome to the Show Day podcast. Today is August 2nd, 2019. Today marks the beginning of the third and final regional of the 2019 DCI regular season. Corps are now starting to file into the Allentown, Pennsylvania area and also surrounding areas as they begin to rehearse and then ultimately perform over the next 2 days. Keep in mind that DCI splits the field, so some groups do perform today, some do perform tomorrow, about a half and half. So 11 today, 11 tomorrow makes for an extremely entertaining couple of days in Allentown. And if you're not able to make it live, of course you'll be able to see it on Flow Marching. So aside from that, which is what most of my podcast today will be about, is the Allentown Regional once I get to today. But first, let's take a look at what we saw last night. We had two shows, one in Lawrence, Massachusetts, and one in Rome, New York. And also tonight, aside from Allentown, we do have two other shows with only open class scores in attendance. And open class scores, I mean, they are down to their final 1, 2, 3 shows at this point before championships. So really, it's that time of year where everything's starting, all the number of competitions and everything's starting to dwindle, and it's almost time for the season to wrap up and for championships to be held a week from today, DCI World Championship semifinals. So basically everything I just laid out, I'll be getting to on today's Show Day podcast. So as I said, we had two shows yesterday, and really, I said yesterday on the podcast, I like to consider yesterday the last day of the summer tour, and if you watch that, you were probably like, what does he mean by that? There's a week left. What I mean by that is it's the last time we see Corps in numerous locations in kind of different places, different states, let's make it. Like now everybody files into Allentown and the surrounding areas. Then everybody goes out to Pittsburgh or Erie or Akron together, and that's all pretty much within if even 100-mile radius, maybe a little bit more. And then everybody goes to championships. So really, I like to consider last night kind of the last night where we're seeing everybody in different locations, as now all corps start getting together and kind of touring together, if you will. So last night, those two shows. First up, the CYO Nationals in Lawrence, Massachusetts. This is a tribute event to the Catholic Youth Organization, one of the original drum corps sanctioning bodies, if you will, that corps used to compete in before DCI was a thing. So at this show, 5 world-class corps were there. We saw Carolina Crown, the Boston Crusaders, the Mandarins, the Colts, and the Seattle Cascades. In general effect, first, the Boston Crusaders get the win over Carolina Crown. Boston's really been on an up and down thing up and down swing, I guess you could say, over these past few weeks. One night they do extremely well and they capture, the next night they're terrible. And I'd like to believe that it's that good thing that they're good, and just some judges don't see it the way others do. But yes, there is times where Boston is kind of at low points, and I think their low point, though, was kind of this past weekend in Atlanta and Winston-Salem as they lost to the Cavaliers. I think now they have nowhere to go but up. I mean, they were in 6th there. They have nowhere to go but up. They're not going to fall, so it'll be interesting to see if they can go up, and that's kind of what this brings me to. So they win general effect last night. That's the point I'm trying to make. At 37-2 to Carolina Crowns, 36.84 tenths there. The Mandarins in 3rd at 34-6, Colts in 4th at 32-8, and the Seattle Cascades in 5th at 27-8. Really, Crown and Boston, the only big battle here, not really anything happening with those bottom 3. When we look at those top 2, Crown gets the win in visual proficiency and visual analysis. Boston doing extremely well in color guard, as they have been. 7/10 above Carolina Crown in that subcaption at a 19 even. Good score for them last night. Because of that color guard subcaption win, Boston does get the overall visual win, a 27-8 to a 27-7-5. So after looking at general effect and visual, you've got Boston up by 4.5 tenths. But the Boston Crusaders' worst thing and Carolina Crown's best thing is found in the music caption. And in that music caption, you see Crown with all ones here. And it's to be expected right now. Crown, as I said, very strong. Boston, weak in music this season. I mean, not like incredibly weak, but weak against their competitors. So, looking at the recap, brass, you've got Crown up by 5/10 there. Music analysis, Crown up by 5/10 there. And then music percussion, that is, Crown up by a whole point there, which is really two different things, and that one of those is Crown is figuring out percussion, something that held them back from one or two championships earlier in this decade. And Boston's also struggling in percussion this season. I say struggling there, not as in like against their competition. I say struggling as like finishing 10th in percussion. When we look at the overall music total, we saw Boston up by 4.5 tenths combined over general effect and visual. That lead just gets erased in music. It's a whole point to Crown there. So even though they were up by 4.5 tenths, Boston was, that just gets shot down there by Crown's great music score. Boston's not going to say weak music score, because it's not weak. It's still above most of their competition, but still, compared to the top six, somewhat low of a music score. The other thing on here real quick, before I move on to the final scores, is just with Mandarins and Colts. Mandarins have struggled in percussion this year. Colts have showed that they have a finalist caliber percussion ensemble, and the Colts did defeat the Mandarins last night. So just a shout out to the Colts after last night's show. When we look at the overall totals, you do notice that margin has closed for Crown and Boston, the 93.25 to Boston's 92.7. Mandarins in third and 87.05. Colts in fourth at 82.35, and the Cascades in fifth, staying above 70 at 70.75. And the second show last night, Drums Along the Mohawk in Rome, New York. A variety of things I want to talk about with this show, and really nothing in particular. I mean, kind of a battle or two I want to look at, but really just some things all over the place I want to look at here. So I'll talk about them as I go through. So general effect first, we've seen the battle for finals this season be Phantom Regiment versus Spirit of Atlanta. I think it continues to be so, but Phantom obviously is on the good side right now. Spirit's been on the bad side for most of the season. Been about a month since Spirit last outscored Phantom. In general effect, Phantom up by 7/10, a 34.3 to a 33.6. Pacific Crest in third at 32.8, within a point of Spirit of Atlanta, Music City, and then Jersey Surf. 8/10 separating those two, with Music City getting the upper hand. In visual proficiency, Phantom up by 2/10, 17.1 to a 16.9. Pacific Crest third. Music City then 3/10 on top of Surf. Visual analysis, Phantom Regiment is 17.1 to Spirit 16.9. Pacific Crest then, once again, pretty close to Spirit of Atlanta, 6/10 separating them. And actually, the scores for analysis actually match perfectly with proficiency. Who knows what that's about? That could be totally that could be something. I'm not going to start any conspiracies with that, but just the analysis proficiency scores are exactly the same. Not sure what to think of that. And then over in color guard, Spirit of Atlanta on top of Phantom Regiment is 16.9 to a 16.6. Pacific Crest in third is 16.3. Jersey Surf then in fourth, above Music City there. Overall visual scores, you've got Phantom on top of 25.4, Spirit in second at 25.35, so very tight between those two in visual, in large part due to color guard. Phantom somewhat struggled there this season. Spirit of Atlanta has they've been showing some strength in that in that subcaption. Pacific Crest in third at 24.45, with the point of those top two. Music City at 22.45, and Jersey Surf in fifth with a 22.25. Then in music, we've got Phantom on top in brass, a 17.6 to a Spirit of Atlanta score of a 17.1. Some high scores for Phantom here. I'm liking what I'm seeing from them in music, and I've said this kind of all season, and I continue to after this show last night. Back to brass, you've got Pacific Crest in third, then Surf Jumping Music City, 15.6 to a 15.1. Music analysis, you've got Phantom Regiment in first, the 17.9, almost breaking 18 there, which is good for a core that is going to finish 11th, 12th. I don't think they're going to finish 13th, but definitely in that range, good for them. Spirit in second is 17.5. Pacific Crest in third, Surf in fourth once again, and then Music City in fifth. Percussion, Phantom Regiment is 17.5 to Spirit 17.4, which is somewhat of a surprise because Phantom's done incredibly well in percussion this season, placing as high as 9th at the Atlanta Regional. So they've done well there. Pacific Crest in third in percussion, and then Surf once again above Music City by a 10th in that subcaption. In overall music, Phantom Regiment outscores Spirit by half of a point, a 26.5 to a 26 even. Pacific Crest in third at 24.5. Music City with a 22.5, getting passed by Jersey Surf, who scores a 23.15. Overall totals, you've got Phantom Regiment in first in 86.2. Spirit of Atlanta in 84.95. Spirit's definitely closed that gap to Phantom, but I don't know if there's enough time to close it as close as they need before the end of the season. Pacific Crest in third at 81.75. Music City in fourth at 75.85, and Jersey Surf in fifth is 75.5, and that's really the closest those two have been in a few years since Surf was really good, like 14, 15, I'm gonna say. And when because at the same time as Surf was going down, Music City was going up. So first time Surf's been incredibly close to Music City in quite a long time. It's definitely something nobody saw coming this season, at least coming into the season in May and June. Tonight, as I said, the DCI Eastern Classic in Allentown, Pennsylvania, presented by Big Loud and Live. Of course, go watch in movie theaters. The top 15 cores on Thursday, August 8th, this upcoming Thursday, World Championship Prelims. Big Loud and Live, I believe it's number 16 now, 16th year they've done that. You can go to fathomevents.com to find your local theater for that event. Great experience. If you're not able to make it into Indianapolis, definitely go and check out that stream in the movie theaters. And just a reminder with that real quick, the top 15 on Thursday are not streamed on Flow Marching, only in the theaters. So just a little bit of a disclaimer real quick. So anyway, that's beside the point. Tonight, DCI East, watch live on Flow Marching, both tonight and tomorrow night. So this one will get underway 6:30 Eastern Time. Welcome to National Anthem, 6:40. Only open class core over the 2 days performing is Encore from South Brunswick, New Jersey. As I've said numerous times, they focused on this regional tour this season. Actually, first-year DCI cores are not able to go to championships, something I learned this off-season. And so what Encore decides to do after today's performance and then leading into next year, will they focus on this regional tour again? Will they decide to go to a more national tour, if you will? Definitely things I'm sure will be debated in that Encore organization. Encore Marching Music Experience is what it's called. So, another thing, kind of beside the point, but just worth noting. So, after they're done performing, we jump into the world class side of things, and it gets incredibly interesting fast. 6:57 step-off time for Music City, then Genesis, the Madison Scouts, Troopers, the Academy, and then an intermission, and then the second half of the show will pick up after that. So, what are we watching here early in this one? Music City and Genesis. Music City has struggled over the past few weeks, really. They got to 70, and then they've been within 5 points of that score since the middle of July. I'm not even gonna say middle, like beginning of July. So, Music City definitely, you want to get things rolling. I'm sure they'll make semifinals, but of course it does. I have to say it probably does hurt just a little bit to have cores like Spartans or Gold end up defeating you by the end of tour, like at semifinals or prelims next week. Just something to throw out there. So Music City definitely wants to work their way up. Also, to come close to Genesis would be good tonight, and they were very close after the last few weeks of competition. Also, the Madison Scouts and Troopers. One thing I did not note with the Troopers earlier, with the Rome, New York show, is that the Troopers did pull out of that event because of an illness in the core. Hopefully, they're good to go tonight. Maybe that's kind of what it was, like pull out last night to be good to go today. If they couldn't perform today, I'm really not sure what would happen, like if you would like put them on tomorrow, or what would really happen there, because they are here in Allentown another day, so not sure what would happen, but I'm sure that would be dealt with if needed. So anyway, Troopers, get back to them. They pulled out last night. I'm sure they'll be good to go today. If not, I'm sure an alternative plan will be decided upon for them. Their closest competition here is the Madison Scouts, and vice versa. Madison Scouts' closest competition is the Troopers. And it'll be interesting to see how these two play out over this last week of tour. A week from today's their last show, so it'll be interesting to see how things can play out for those two. And then also the Academy here, not really anybody they're competing very closely against today in Allentown, but tomorrow. I mean, it is the same judging panel over the 2 days, but lots of people don't like to listen to that kind of thing about the judges are giving kind of the same scores along the same lines, because because opinions can change and whatever. It's 2 days, whatever. But it is the same panel both days, so it'll be interesting to see how everything lines up both days when it's all said and done on Saturday night. So after that intermission, after the Academy, we then watched the final 5 world-class scores here, and we've got the Blue Knights, Blue Stars, Blue Devils, Vanguard, and the Blue Coats, and then 10-12 scores announced. Blue Knights, Blue Stars, another one of I believe this is the closest battle, so far throughout tour, at least beginning of this week. It was the closest battle, like average throughout the season between those two. For the season, I believe it was like one core favored by 0.6 there. 0.006, that is, not 0.6, that's a large margin, but 0.006 is just 6,000ths, so these two have been incredibly close all season long. And then, of course, the battle for the top 3, or in the top 3, I should say, Blue Devils, Vanguard, and the Blue Coats. How they'll come out of this is unknown at this point. Could maybe the Blue Devils have been in Hamburg, Pennsylvania for like 4 days at this point. They got there on July 30th on Tuesday, and now are still here, and they'll be there again tomorrow. So I don't really know what to expect, because I'm sure they've added some cool stuff into that show. I do want to say one thing with Vanguard and also the Blue Coats. Vanguard, I did check out their rehearsal last night up at Northern Lehigh High School in Slatington, Pennsylvania. They're making progress. They did do a full run through last night. They did a great job, obviously, at that. Great performers this year. Great performance quality from that group night in, night out. I'm really excited to see what they can provide in uniform and everything today and then over the next week. And then also the Blue Coats, I did see a video of them from last night at the Pro Football Hall of Fame thing, a cool experience for those members, and also the Band of Excellence members that got to perform with them. I see that they did change their ending, and I now really like it. So if you haven't heard it, I'm going to kind of be a spoiler alert right now. And so instead of where they would play Come Together and then would pitch bend into Hey Jude, or in this case, Hey Blue, they now play Come Together. They stop. They have the vocal play again of Ladies and Gentlemen, the Bluecoats, and then they play Hey Jude, and then do the pitch bend and then the bow. So really, they've changed that show for the better. Really, it was very clustered before, and that ending at least. And now I think that with that finishing touch on it, which is what I think that is, it really is a great thing for the Bluecoats. And who will come out on top tonight may not be the same corps that comes out on top. I want to say these corps don't meet again until Thursday. I believe I'd be correct to say that. Maybe not be the corps that beats the other on Thursday, may not be the corps that beats the other on Friday. I think it's totally up in the air unless the winner tonight comes out at like 6 or 7 tenths above the other, especially in the Blue Devils' favor, just because they're the Blue Devils. But if you ask me what happens tonight in Allentown, I would say I probably think it's very close once again. Like, I can't even give you a prediction. I'm gonna say, if I had to say, I'd say Blue Devils by like some like 0.163 to like 0.038 or something like that. And if you're asking me where they get score-wise, 95-96, well within the realm of possibility tonight for at least Blue Devils and Bluecoats, but maybe also Vanguard. Could Vanguard pull in here and pull off an upset? Just throwing some stuff right now. Just throwing some stuff at you right now. So aside from Allentown, we also have 2 other shows tonight. Of course, all open class scores at those because everybody's in Pennsylvania. That's a world class score. So the first of those is Tournament of Drums in Marion, Iowa, not to be confused with Marion, Indiana, where open class championships will be held next week. Lineup for this event is as follows. So 6:30 Sound Sport performance by Conquest, a brand new sound sport team out of Illinois. Excuse me. And then after that, we've got a full slate of open class scores. We've got Golden Empire, Shadow, River City Rhythm, and then an intermission, Louisiana Star, Spartans, Gold, and the Colt Cadets. The big thing I'm looking forward to here is Golden Empire. They put up a score of 68.15 in their last show. It was the Gold Showcase in Vista, California on July 20th. How do they show tonight? Because they've shown to be behind Gold by 2-3 points. So I don't think they're in the championship conversation, but they're well within the top 5 conversation. And their score from July 20th is pretty much the exact same of what we've seen from River City Rhythm and Louisiana Stars in the past few days. So whether that score is a little bit inflated that they got in California, maybe it should be more in the likes of like a 64, 65, 66. I don't know. But they should be above River City Rhythm and Louisiana Stars easily tonight, like 2-3 points above, and maybe even pulling kind of close to those top 2 in Gold and Spartans, which brings me to that conversation, which is Spartans and Gold, how close are they to each other tonight? And then also, last thing, Shadow, can they, I know I'm kind of all over the place here, but just kind of hang with me. Shadow, can they pull a little closer to River City Rhythm, Louisiana Stars, Golden Empire, that group? And then Colt Cadets, can they pull closer to Shadow? So a bunch of things to be, that will be decided, I guess you could say, tonight in Marion, but I'm sure what we see tonight in Marion won't be what we see on Monday and Tuesday in Marion, Indiana. Then the second of those open class shows is the Legends Drum Corps Open in Plainwell, Michigan. This is the same lineup that was at Sheffield and White Lake and Plymouth, except you take out the Spartans and you add in the Guardians. So what should we watch for? Legends, can they score 75, 76, 77 tonight? They need to do that, maybe even a 78, in order to stay in the open class finals or open class championship conversation, that is. With adding the Guardians in here, we see them match up against Southwind and 7th Regiment for the first time this season. How those three will fall is totally up in the air. I have no idea how they'll end up, but if I had to predict, I would say Southwind and then 7th Regiment. I think those two will be extremely close, at least closer than maybe you'd expect with what we've seen from them so far this season. And really that's because 7th Regiment's been coming on Southwind, so just kind of my prediction on that, and I think Guardians might be 1-2 points behind 7th Regiment then. And then those final, or the first three, I guess you could say, Heatwave, Raiders, and Lay Centaurs, obviously 3 of those corps in that open class finals conversation. Who will advance from prelims to finals? You've got 12 corps that will, 2 corps that won't. Obviously those corps don't want to be the ones that won't. So will the Raiders kind of make a late push? Will Lay Centaurs make a huge late push? Could maybe Colt Cadets fall a little bit? I don't know or could Heatwave maybe fall a little bit? All of that's kind of again up in the air, so we'll see how these 3 at least fall tonight in Plainwell. Thank you for watching the podcast today. Just a few things. Make sure to visit my website, drumcorpscentral.weebly.com, for all the latest updates from the DCI and DCA summer tours. Scores, schedules, leaderboards, and more can all be found on my own personal website, but all things Drum Corps. Make sure to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Drum Corps Geek, and subscribe to the Show Day podcast on YouTube, where this podcast and more will be posted. And finally, leave your thoughts in the comment sections, questions, input, comments, etc. would all be greatly appreciated always. And finally, just 2 things. If you're in the Allentown area this weekend, either traveling in or live here or whatever, I do have the rehearsal and housing sites list in the description of this video. Just click on that and it'll show you everything. And then also I have that post on Twitter, so if follow me there, just want to see that there, you can go to my Twitter page and find that. And also, I'm very excited to see Allentown in person tonight. Always a great show, or great 2 nights of shows, I guess you could say. And hoping the rain does hold off. It does seem like there may be some spotty showers or pop-up thunderstorms. Nothing too severe though, like last year on Friday, but just hoping we can get all those cores in today, and then again tomorrow. It seems like that might be a little bit of a threat on both days, but it does seem very localized or whatever. So as long as the rain does hold off and everything, it seems like it'll be a great night of Drum Corps, and I hope the rain will hold off doing a rain dance. And that's it for today. So thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your Friday. I'll be back tomorrow.